Hey everyone, welcome to the Cardboard Republic. First off, I'm sorry that we've been a little inconsistent lately. Life has been kind of extra lifey, but things have settled down and we are getting back on track, so just stick with us. This is a haul video. It's a bunch of games that we've gotten in over the course of March and April. In case you don't know, if you're relatively new, we review games over on cardboardrepublic.com, and so we end up playing a whole lot of them every month. Here are some of the things that have made their ways into our inboxes right up until the end of April. First in our inbox is Sunset Over Water. This is a relatively new title by Pencil First Games. That's Eduardo Baraf and Steve Finn, and I know the art is by Beth Sobel, which is why it's so gorgeous. So this is a game in which you are a painter of these beautiful landscapes. Every day you wake up and you hike out into the wilderness to find the most pristine images that you can. You paint them and you bring them back to civilization and you sell them for lots and lots of money. So, how you do that in this game is at the beginning of every round, you have a selection of cards. These cards tell you what order you're going to be in, as well as, I think, how many different paintings you can do over the course of your wilderness hike that day. You have to balance getting out there early, because if you get out there early, you'll be able to paint the best pictures, I guess, with making sure you have time for everything that you want to do, and then also making sure you're selling paintings for a good amount of money when you make it back to town. I've been seeing this one everywhere because it is, no pun intended, a very picturesque game. It photographs very well, of course, and I'm excited to try it. Favelas is a tile stacking, as opposed to tile laying, game designed by Chris Bryan and published by WizKids. The whole idea of this one is you are beautifying neighborhoods in Rio de Janeiro. Now, the neighborhoods have already been built, so you're not really expanding your territory, you're laying tiles down one on top of the other to make the whole neighborhood more colorful and more vibrant. The catch is that the neighborhood council is constantly changing the rules on you. Sometimes red buildings are worth more points, sometimes yellow buildings are worth more points. You don't necessarily know what's going to be worth the most at the end of the game. Every round it changes and players have some say in how that's manipulated. So you have to balance trying to make sure you are building the best you can possibly do while also keeping an eye on what other players are building as well. If they're getting a lot of points, for instance, you're going to want to start manipulating that neighborhood council so their buildings aren't worth quite as much. It seems pretty cool. When this was first announced and really the hype started to go, there was some controversy over this because there's like a real fine line between beautifying a neighborhood and like gentrifying a neighborhood. And, for those who aren't as familiar with the terms, beautifying a neighborhood is like, hey, let's paint some things, let's get the community involved. Gentrifying a neighborhood is when outsiders, typically wealthier, usually white people, come into these neighborhoods that belong mostly to low-income folks. They fix up things, which is good, but in doing so, they tend to drive the market prices up so that the people who lived in those neighborhoods before are priced out and can no longer afford to be there. That's generally not seen as super great. I've heard really mixed things about how this comes across in Favelas. Some people seem to be completely fine with it. They don't feel like it's a gentrification sort of game. Some people disagree with that and do feel that it is. I want to play it and see what I think. I think that one thing that is good is that it is referenced in the rulebook that the artist who worked on the project also worked in these actual neighborhoods in Rio, beautifying them with the communities there. So there is some awareness to it, and, ultimately I want to see how it plays. I've heard that it's pretty abstract overall, so I'm not sure if the issues with the theme are really going to be super present in every gameplay. Visitor in Blackwood Grove is a deduction game put out by Resonum Games, designed by Mary Flanagan and Max Seidman. All right, bear with me. It's a little bit complicated to describe. This is actually a game that we previewed back when it was on Kickstarter, and I have not played a deduction game quite like this. The whole premise is that one player is an alien. That alien, the visitor, crashes in Blackwood Grove. The only other person to see this happen is the kid, another player. The kid wants to try to help the alien rebuild the ship and get out of there. Meanwhile, the government, the FBI, the CIA, are trying to come in and, I don't know, kidnap the alien, do bad things, do bad government things with the alien. We don't ask. So the whole game is built around this idea that the alien's ship will only let certain things come into it. Everything else gets stuck outside of the force field. The alien player sets a rule. This is the rule that determines what comes in and what stays out. The rule can be anything. For instance, once my rule was things that a suburban dog would find and chew. Ryan once had a rule that was, I believe, things that would fit inside of a basket, a picnic basket. So the whole idea is that this rule can't be so obscure that no one else will get it. Because if that happens, then the kid won't guess it correctly. And the alien wants the kid to guess it correctly because the kid is helping. But if the rule is too easy, then the government will also guess it correctly, and that is bad news. I've played several games of this. Now, like I said, we did the preview and we actually sort of cheated and played this as soon as it came in because I was excited to see what it was like now. And the first time you play it, or the first time you play it in a while, there's this tendency to make your rule just the weirdest thing you can think of, and that backfires really, really quickly. So subsequent rounds tend to be actually a little bit easier because players get better at figuring out what a good rule is. So much of the game hinges on just, is this rule like within that sweet spot? But I really like it. I think that it's one of those games that, like I said, the more you play it, the better at it you will be. It's a little bit like Mysterium too, in that it helps to know the other players that you're playing with. Because while the game doesn't let you, do things that only one specific player would know, judging your table, you can kind of tell, oh, this is a rule someone else might be able to figure out, or, oh, this is a rule that pertains to something only I know about, and that's not cool. So that's Visitor. It's pretty fun. It's real weird. I like it. Role Player Monsters and Minions is an expansion to Role Player. This was designed by Keith Maciejka and put out by Thunderworks Games. So it's, like I said, it's an expansion to Role Player. Role Player is the dice placement / manipulation game where you are designing your own role-playing adventurer. In this expansion, Monsters and Minions, in addition to designing your own character, there's also this big bad that's taking over the town that you're going to be adventuring in. Now, you have to spend some valuable time and points at the beginning of the game trying to learn more about this big bad. The more you know when you're building your character, the more you can tailor your character to actually fight that person, monster, whatever. The more you can tailor your character to fight the bad dude, the better off you're going to be at the end of the game. So it doesn't seem like it changes the core gameplay too much, but it does add a little bit extra. Now, in terms of this style of game, I prefer Sagrada, which has the same thing going. It has, that you roll some dice, you place them, you manipulate them a little bit. I don't know why, I just kind of like Sagrada better. But I have been trying to play Role Player again, and we've had trouble getting it to the table for no real legitimate reason. And I think this is going to be the thing that finally gets Role Player to the table again and convinces me that it was silly that I like Sagrada so much more. I should like them equally. They're basically the same game. Wildcatters, and I think that's how you say it. Anyway, it was designed by Rolf Sagel and Andre Spiel, and it was put out by Capstone Games. Now, I don't know why it's called this. It's a game about oil barons in the 19th century. It's not a game about wild cats, which I was a little disappointed by, I'm not gonna lie. But it is kind of your quintessential Euro game. You are playing as oil barons trying to exploit the oil fields around the world. Now, the interesting thing here is that there's a little bit of cooperative gameplay built into it that you don't see in a lot of these heavy Euro economic simulation games. If you are working with another player to search for oil, to drill oil, or to ship oil, you're going to be able to do it easier. But when it comes to actually selling the oil and getting those points, you want to be doing it on your own. So it seems like there's some interesting decision making around when to team up and when to split off and do your own thing. You're not going to do so well if you lone wolf it the whole way through. But you can't become overly reliant on other players or you're going to make yourself vulnerable. Now, again, I'm sure this name means something, probably, but I don't know what it is. But it does seem interesting. It is one of the heavier games we have for this month. I don't know why there's a woman holding... Oh! It's an oil rig. It's a woman holding an oil rig, obviously. Crystal Clans was designed in-house, as far as I can tell, and published by Plaid Hat. It is a game that reminds me a lot of Small World. It's like a straight-up battle game. You are competing for dominance over this world. The first player to get the most crystals, I think you have to get 6 of them, wins. Every clan... So every player has a clan, and every clan is different. So the game is totally asymmetric. What intrigues me here is that one of the clans is known for being peaceful. They're like the Flower Clan. So I'm curious to see how they play in a game where you really, really have to be aggressive. Or at least from what I've seen, you have to be aggressive in order to win. Anyway, I'm gonna report back. I really like Small World. I know it has its flaws, okay? I know it has its flaws. But I find it really fun. And I find the fact that you are forced to be completely aggressive. There is no defense. There is only offense in that game. And I find it very freeing because normally I'm a very defensive player. And so in a situation where I can't be, where I have to just go all out, it's kind of fun every now and then. I'm hoping that Crystal Clans is like that, but also gives me maybe a little bit more strategic play, but we will see. Age of Thieves was designed by Slavomir Stepien and put out by Galactica Games. This reminds me a lot of the Thief video games, all right? So your whole shtick is that you are a master thief in this kind of medieval city, but with like some technology and a smidge of magic. You are out for the score of a lifetime. You are going to steal the Emperor's jewels. Now, you have to do that very, very carefully, of course. You have to do it using your potions and your special devices and all this like cool, dark, gritty, medieval fantasy stuff. And then you have to escape the city. It seems like it's going to be really difficult, and I'm probably not going to do it successfully, but one of my favorite things in the Thief video games was just running around and stealing collateral artifacts. I don't know if you can do that in this game. Like, I don't know if you would get extra points for stealing 14 candlesticks, but we're gonna see what I can do. Legendary Creatures is another pencil-first game. It was designed by Eduardo Baraf and Christopher Ham, and it's like Pokemon meets Harry Potter, I guess, thematically. Anyway, you are this magical apprentice. You're trying to be a druid. And in order to do that, you have to go through the trial. you run around the world. You run around the world with your monster friends who help you get renown. They just help you be better. I'm assuming you can have them do things for you like you can in Pokemon. I don't know, man. It's like Pokemon meets Harry Potter. This was everything about my childhood. And look at those cute monsters. And look at that person. So, okay. You, as an apprentice, are going through the trial. You have to travel all over. You have to reach these far-flung destinations. You have to engage in quests. And every time you do so, you get more points. The player at the end who has the most points, who has had the best and most varied experience in the trials, who has proved that they can truly be a druid of renown, becomes a druid of renown. And thereby, I guess, is the person who no longer has to engage in trials, but I don't know why you would want to do that because it seems like these trials are so much fun. Xian was designed by Marco Legato and Francesco Testini and put out by Pendragon Game Studio. This is a game all about the Terracotta Army, which is so neat because that's like one of the wonders of the world. In case you aren't familiar with it, the Terracotta Army was designed in ancient China as part monument and part protection for a tomb. And these are full-size soldiers made out of terracotta and outfitted with actual weapons and armor. And they stand there waiting silently forever and ever and ever. And there are so many of them, and it is so amazingly impressive. In this game, you are building them. So you have to go about collecting these resources, forming and building these statues, and making sure you outfit them with the right armor and weapons so that they can guard the Emperor into the afterlife. I don't know a lot yet about how that actually happens, about the actual gameplay, but I am excited to experience that part of history through gaming because it's not one that I am super familiar with, but I've always wanted to learn more. Remember earlier when I was like, ha ha ha, Wildcat are so heavy? Well, Antiquity was designed by Jerome Duman and Joris Wersiga, and it is approximately 57 pounds. It's put out by Splotter, and there is no air in this box whatsoever. There is only cement and brick. It is a game about building a city. To do that, you are managing your resources. You are... I don't even want to say, actually, that it's a game about building a city, because it is, but that's a little bit narrow for what Antiquity is trying to do. The game is extremely open-ended, and you can achieve your goals in pretty much any way. You get points for building up your citizenry. You get points for expanding your territory. However you think you want your city to grow, you get points for it. In the end, the person who has managed to be most successful with whatever engine they've chosen to build is the winner. All of the losers have to carry this 10 times around the block. That's our haul. Those are the games that we got in during March and during April, and we're going to be trying to play a bunch of them soon and getting our review engine up and running. We are going to be taking some time off in May. We have some exciting family events going on overseas. But I think we still have time to get a bunch of these in. And, like, we can bring Antiquity with us to the other side of the world, right? I mean, what's the, like, baggage overage charges now? All right, so let us know down below the games that you got in during the past couple months. I'm always excited to see what you guys are up to, what you're playing. And as always, like and subscribe. We will be back again really, really soon with a new video for you. Bye!